Sports Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Heineken. Get the facts, be drink aware, visit drinkaware.ie.
Happy Monday and welcome to this week's edition of House of Rugby with thanks to Heineken. My name is Lindsay Peat and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by JOE.ie Editor Pat McCarry to my left and the absolute legend that is Shane Byrne to my right. On this week's episode we will be looking at Ireland's 4 wins from 4 and their qualification for the quarter-finals against the small challenge that is New Zealand. But lads, what's your thoughts after that weekend?
Yeah, kind of buzzing. Like I wasn't that worried. Like myself and Darren Cave did the show last week, and we weren't that worried. We were trying to be as nice as possible to Scotland, while also saying Ireland aren't really going to be bothered too much at all. But even I couldn't have predicted how much of a walk in the park it was against them. They were so good. Like and then the fact that nearly everything that gets thrown at this Ireland team the last 2 or 3 years, like even if somebody had said to you that the second half will have Gibson Park on one wing and Ringrose on the other, and you know it'll still be over after 45 minutes, like you'd be so surprised. Like so. Yeah, confidence is high from on this side of the table anyway, heading into the weekend. Yeah. Shane, potential banana skin prior to going in usually with Scotland. But
no, there was nothing I had seen running into it that would make me think that there was... I suppose, look at it this way, for things to go well for Scotland, things had to go bad for Ireland. And there was no signal from the Irish camp that anybody was taking this other than really seriously. And as long as that was happening, I was happy that we were just a better team. Now, look, I didn't expect it to go as well as it did in that time frame of the game. They just absolutely lashed into them. But if you look at the stats, which I see online, the Kiwis are trying to make a bit of, the Scots had huge yardage gained, and Ireland made a lot more tackles than they did.
Your tackle count was very high. Was it 180?
High. Yeah.
Am I right with that?
No, it was more. It was 200 something.
I think there was stat towards the end again, 181 tackles, yeah.
But that's, you know, Ireland are very comfortable without the ball as well, and that's key to it. Like we've just created this team that is very hard to beat, is the best way I think to describe it. It's not so much that they go out and they wipe sides out or they're totally dominant. It's just they're extremely hard to beat. And that 18 phases, I think it was, where Scotland were literally on our line, was one of, like, the minute they didn't score there, the game was kind of over. You know what I mean? If they didn't get a chance to come in and to get that score, to get the scoreboard moving for them, I thought, listen, no matter what you throw at Ireland now, they're going to be able to handle it.
And you've been there, like myself, to defend your line constantly for 18 phases. Like it's so hard because you get so low, you can't have any gaps between you. You're nearly like Dublin, you're nearly like bricks of a wall. So for anyone who hasn't played the game, it's testament to this Irish team in the endeavour and the application, and it's not easy because you could easily just give away a try, especially when you're so far ahead. But would you say, Pat, that's probably the most complete performance, that first half performance so far of the tournament for Ireland? Yeah. Everything just clicked and like a lot of the plans went so well, and like they just wasn't a 62. I think their fastest ever World Cup try, like and like nearly everything. Minute and a half, was it? Yeah, just over a minute. 62 seconds. 62 seconds. Incredible. So like everything that they'd planned came out well, and like all of a sudden everyone's worried about Bundyaki, and Ringrose all of a sudden comes to the party and starts ripping through the Scots as well, and everything went through him then in a way, and so like they have everything figured out, and they just kind of just played them so perfectly, like and. I was kind of joking there at half time saying that Ireland would ease up and then let Scotland get their 4 tries and really put the South Africans under pressure watching at home, like they kind of all the big Scottish players as well didn't really stand up as well, and they had their homework done on them. Finn Russell didn't do too much. Yeah, like
line out defence was excellent.
Wasn't it?
That's pure research.
The homework was good, and set piece was good. How filthy though was Gary Ringrose's just to really rub it in their face, just that little soccer style. And it's a team with confidence. So he stood out for me on Saturday.
I thought he was excellent, and I don't know why he doesn't get the praise that he should get. He's an absolutely incredible player. His physicality has really upped in the last few years, I feel. And his skill set is outrageous.
Well, his little dummy for the first try was key, and his key little moments. But he stood out. Anyone else stand out for you?
Well, you have to mention O'Mahony, don't you? Like, he was superb, right in the thick of it. Had nothing to do with the fight at the start, and just made sure he got into it, which was fantastic. But like, look, that's what he does, and to be a Centurion now is well deserved. It was brilliant. like there's so many of the other guys. Like obviously you have to mention Johnny and the way he played and the way he pulled the strings for the team. You know, the ability to make his decision. He always has options when he hits the line, but he's so flat. He's an absolute nightmare for defence because you literally don't know what he's going to do until the last second, and he's not looking at his other people. He's looking at you, waiting for you to make your decision. And the minute you make a decision, he makes the opposite pass, and it's just fabulous to see.
Yeah. What did you think about Lindsay? What about for you? Anyone else that's jumped off the page?
Caelan Doris for me had been quiet at the start of the tournament. Like he was very, very quiet in the first time, but he was immense in some of his turnovers now at the start of the game. His tackle count, the same thing. Oh, geez, I think he'd over, he was in double fingers, 22, I think. Same with Josh Vanderfleer, a lot of people. And look, when you played the game, sometimes players are quiet by standards because they're not on the ball. But I mean, Vanderfleer again was in double figures.
Yeah.
The same with Andrew Porter. I must give a shout out to the loose heads because the amount of work that man gets through.
Fantastic.
It's absolutely phenomenal for a set piece, for a line out, for tackling. And then they're just, to me, look, there's been lots of chat about, not jinxing us, but there is something different about this team. And I was at an event this morning in the Aviva and I just saw a glimpse of the pitch and I got goosebumps and I was like, I can't lose the run of myself here because I've done it as a player. And I'm like, oh, please don't jinx it. But look, we talk about, Gary Ringrose just having that little deft touch on a, in the kick receipt, and you're like, right, this is a team enjoying their rugby. They're confident. 18 phases on their line. They're not afraid of hard work. They're not afraid to be confident without the ball. And I just think there's something different. I do think, though, yourself, playing with a 10, what makes, this question brandished around, what's the difference with a world-class 10? P.O. Manny, when Johnny put him through, he waited and the Scottish defender, I can't remember who it was, had to come, Hugh Jones maybe, had to come out of the line. And next of all, O'Mahony, again, you have to make those runs. You may not get the ball. Yeah. And then he's making gain line. So every time they're confident in what decision they make, and they seem to be all on the same page.
Yeah.
And O'Mahony, for me, do you know what? He brought tears to my eyes because he's so humble and he just thanked the group for making that week so special. And he said, I thought I'd be nervous, but I actually loved it. And those are moments that stand out in your history of your journey, as you know yourself, with your career. And I think it's just something different with this team. But
listen, the whole challenge for what Andy Farrell had to do with this team is we already knew they're an amazing team. We already know they're a fantastic squad, massively skilled, fit enough, everything that needed. The thing that he had to get right for this World Cup was the mindset. They had to go out with a different mindset than we've ever done before in a World Cup, because like we all know the quarterfinal hoodoo. Look, that's
you've been there.
Yes, I have twice. Yes, thank you. And it's something that is real. Like how often do you go into a World Cup number one seed in the world and nobody really saying, you're kind of mentioned they might do well, they might get to the final or whatever. That's because of the hoodoo is real. Like it's something. Yeah. So I think Farrell has done a superb job in getting their mindset. And these guys are ruthless. Shane Byrne, in his interview after the Tongan game, he just let it slip that now they all say it now, but it's knockout rugby from now on. And I think that's so relevant. I think that's the exact way they've treated each of these games going forward. And like, as we said, we've mentioned it, the defence on the line. Defence on the line is pride. You have to just be in a different mindset for that. And like for them to do that, that was just, every box that you ask them to tick, they do tick. And it's great to see.
They're relentless, aren't they, Pat? They're relentless.
They didn't let up at all, did they? Like they, what was like bonus points, like or like sewn up by half time, and then they kept going, and then they'd probably be they went out immediately after the break, and you're kind of, are they going to ease up now? But yeah, they had it wrapped up after 45 minutes. They could take Sexton off. Then they put on 5 forwards, and we're all trying to think here, like, is there an Irish version of a bomb squad, like where they all came on at once? Or, but they just kept going, and then the other lads come on, and then the way they just seem to be able to slot in there, like McCloskey slotted in, and no big errors. Like he did wasn't spectacular now, but he did everything that was asked of him, carried well, and you almost wouldn't notice any of the changes they've made, like Ringrose swapping out to go on the wing then as well. And
isn't it gas? Whatever it is against Scotland, same in the Six Nations, loads of injuries, and guys having to change different positions, and seamlessly. Yeah,
there was an interesting one. I saw ITV kind of highlighted at the end. It was like Gibson Park on the wing, and the way he ran from one side of the pitch to the other, just
his
to assist the Sheehan.
Work rate was outrageous in that one.
Yeah.
He's full of energy, isn't he? He's full of endeavour. Another man who's playing with great confidence.
Yeah. Like, so that's it. And they just kind of, everybody would have thought, like, that's it. It must have been funny to be in the Irish camp this week, because everyone was asking questions about permutations and what about this and 8 points and 4 tries, and I'd love to know what they were saying themselves. And the way Peter O'Mahony even came out at the end and was like, he'd heard exactly what was said about them.
That was brilliant.
That
didn't happen now, did it?
They said they figured us out, and then the poor Scots kind of going like, well, we have to talk ourselves up a little bit, like, and it's almost like we're in the position of being the All Blacks playing against Ireland back in the day, where we just look at them and go, you don't have any stats to back up your talk here, like, so. And they didn't give them any hope at all, and they snuffed it out, and relentless kind of really sums it up, doesn't it?
And I think it's even better that we did let in the couple of tries at the end, because Andy Farrell won't be happy about that, and it's another little focuser.
Yeah, one from the restart as well,
wasn't the perfect game, so we need to concentrate. Don't take anything easy going into this week.
No, and especially when he was previously the defence coach, and I believe he's a good man, he's good crack, but when it comes to detail and having your level of acceptable standards, I don't think he'd be happy. And especially I heard a couple of stories where he's ruthless in his feedback. But speaking of relentless, and I suppose something different, P. O'Mahony, we'll give him a few minutes. A centurion. Is there another 50 caps in this guy? Like, he is playing some of the best rugby. We spoke about him on the show last year. I said, and I'll still say it again, he'd fight like myself with a pillowcase. But it seems to be that has like trickled down into the squad. There's a confidence in them. There's a huge camaraderie, and
it's funny. I was watching the game with my daughter, whose birthday it is today as well.
Happy birthday, daughter. Which one of your three? Happy birthday, Caitlin.
So she was watching the game with me there at the weekend, and she looked at Sexton and O'Mahony, and you can hear the grey flecks.
Thanks.
And she says, like, they're old, aren't they? Like, but like, they might look old in the anthems, but when they play the game, they don't look old at all. It's almost like they've been like, it's taken 5 years off them. Like, they've rejuvenated themselves, and like O'Mahony is kind of, even back in the they just seem to be, the squad is the fittest I think I've ever seen them. Like, and I know just some of them were huffing and puffing near the end of the game as well. Like, but they all just kind of look so great. And I remember like O'Mahony, he gets emotional for nearly every anthem. So, but I did see him like being particularly emotional, and he looked like he was kind of wiping tears away when he played at the Aviva in the final game before they went to the World Cup. And I was thinking in my head, like, he's 34. Like, is this going to be his final? Could he hang up the boots after the World Cup as well? There's been no talk of it. But like, could he? Like, would he stay on in that squad? And now I'm starting to think he could. Like, whereas I might have thought after World Cup they might just change the guard and bring in, like, Scott Penny's now Leinster captain, and bring in fresh bodies. Like, but I don't know. He could hang around for another couple of years. Like, he'd be Sexton's age at the next World Cup. So like, maybe that's a stretch. Like, but I don't know. Nothing would kind of put it. Like, he'll be out there, maybe just come off the bench and rough people up for the last 20 minutes or something like that in 2027.
Well, I mean, the lad spoke all week about his leadership style and not seeing the real P. O'Mahony. Have you had experience playing with him? Would you know him that intensely?
Not hugely well, obviously, because I'm unfortunately very old. But listen, he's looked old for years, for the last 10 years, and he's assumed that older man's role as a leader, spiritual leader, on and off the park, whatever way you want to put it. And the players really look up to him, and he's essential to the ebb and flow of that team. And like the way they talk about him, they we all see, they've even addressed, like, we all see the grumpy, serious guy on the pitch, which he's brilliant at. But they say he's not like that. He keeps all, he says the right thing at the right time. And that comes with experience. To me, players of that, look, we're all unfortunate enough that the mid-30s, the bodies do tend to slow down a bit, but the experience level can't be replaced. And as long as he can stay up there with his fitness, no injuries, his experience is invaluable. And that's the key to it, because as a line-out operator, as just being able to be at the right place at the right time and to say the right things to the opposition at the right time, like he does, I think he's fantastic for the team.
Well, listen, telling Sam Kane that you're a shit Richie McCaw is like priceless.
Genius.
I have to give that in.
That
and
is
like,
just genius.
yeah, I've been on the receiving end of that, and you just psychologically go, you're like, I'm just going to, you make it personal then.
Yeah,
and I think he is essential to that. I think you're right. Yeah. And look, lads, let's be honest, we have world class back row, and he's still getting in there at early 30s, coming up to mid 30s. And I think it's testament to the man he is, and obviously how essential he is. I also feel he's like a spiritual animal of Andy Farrell. I watched Andy Farrell when I was only a nipper when he was playing rugby league, and he was absolutely ruthless.
Played with him in Saracens, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he kind of encapsulates that as a player, and I think that's essential. And I think there's fabulous personalities that all shine through and kind of collectively make this successful jigsaw piece. But I think it brings us nicely into the tempers and injuries. And what do you think of Schumann throwing Sheehan over the billboards?
God's sake. Well, do you know something? That was a deliberate ploy. I guarantee
to go out and start a fight.
Yes, to just try to upset the rhythm of Ireland.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you have to do something,
they would have been instructed, just pick any reason, just start a fight, and just to see if they could get into the Irish mindset. But then you have Peter O'Mahony laughing at him in the middle of it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It absolutely backfired on them completely. I think it's all handbags of dawn. I don't think there's much to it. Everyone's, I was very dangerous. Like the guys are okay. You know what I mean?
And would you think? Well, do you know what? It was kind of more so from a front row. I was like, geez, if he lands on his neck now, that's not good for any front row unit. So kind of the front row of me was like, that wasn't cool. Like throwing him over a hoarding, considering it could have been.
He should know better.
Yeah.
Like it's just a bit excessive. Like tussle, like the fighting has gone out of it now. You can't throw the punches, but you can have a good old tussle. But like that was just a bit daft.
Yeah. It probably nice point that Shane's brought up, but do you think then they did pinpoint Johnny Sexton? It wasn't cool. I was like, that's just not cool now, tripping him. Do you think going forward, knockout rugby, are they going to start targeting Johnny Sexton? Are we going to see late hits against the All Blacks if we get through to Wales, if we go to a final? And these are all scenarios. Is he going to be? Because really, let's be honest, he probably is one key person and player we can't really afford to lose. We do have Crowley, we do have Ross Byrne. They're absolutely well able for the job, but there's something just a little bit special. So do you think he's going to be a target?
Yeah. Like it's almost like we haven't seen, unless he's a completely reformed character, we haven't seen the real Johnny Sexton in this World Cup, because he's super nice. He's kind of he's having
calm.
all these he's having these like really kind of measured conversations with the ref, and he's doing a lot of smiling as well. Like, so unless he has kind of went and did a course for himself over the summer. But yeah, like and then you could see the little trip, and and he turned around and reacted, and they didn't do anything mad, like, but and the other players will be kind of, as you said, like O'Mahony or Caelan Doris, or I think Sheehan and Porter were quick in, but like they'll be on the lookout as well to protect them then, or get like we'll show our bodies in the way as well, like, so but yeah, the Kiwis will be at it, like, like they have Feek, they have Schmitz, kind of they'll know about him as well. They'll just be kind of maybe holding them in to rucks, or kind of late shot, or kind of charging through or blocking him or something. So expect to see a bit more. That's just that Scotland couldn't really get their hands on Ireland, really, like, so the All Blacks might turn it into a bit more of a fight if they can, and it'll be very interesting. Like, both sides I can kind of see doing a lot of playing without the ball, won't they? Like, and
there's no doubt.
Yeah,
like New Zealand, you got to remember, New Zealand were the masters at twisting the rules. And,
living on the edge.
Yeah, and doing things that you shouldn't, but still getting away with it. And like, they're absolute masters, and that is still within the game. And they know that Johnny is essentially, he's so important to our attack. He's not the only part. He won't fall apart. The other guys can do it, but they're not Johnny Sexton. That's just a fact of it.
Yeah.
So they will do what they can to upset him. And yeah, you wouldn't be surprised to see they might deliberately give away a few penalties just to do it.
But is this something then we need to see from Ireland to do back to the All Blacks and play them at their own game? Because I do feel there's an extra bite to Ireland. So is that something we might see in their own game?
We don't need to do it. Like, we just need to continue doing what we're doing. Like, I think we've already hurt them enough. Like, the aura around the All Blacks is gone, and we were the team that started that breakdown of that aura. Doing what we did, over the couple of years. Like, there's kids on that team now that have played New Zealand 4 or 5 times and have never lost. Was it 4 times and never lost? Yeah. Like, I played them 7, 8 times and I lost every flipping time.
Yeah. Shane still had PTSD with an All Black jersey.
But that's a fact. And like, all the Irish team need to do is just to keep that mindset and just stick to the game plan, because to me, any winning and losing of any game, Ireland are on such a level now that it's up to them. And if Ireland can concentrate in their own game and not get upset with someone else's game, what other people are trying to do against them, I think they'll go a long way. And that's the thing. Like, the best way I could say after that South African game is, we're far from the perfect performance, but no other team in the World Cup would have stopped South Africa winning that game.
True.
No other team. Because South Africa had absolutely purple patch moments in that game, and they were held out. You know, it was just absolutely outrageous, the effort. But that's the calmness there seems to be in this team. They never panic. They fix things on the run, on the pitch, which is brilliant to see.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you need. And so that whenever they come across in New Zealand, whatever New Zealand try, it's just calmly deal with it, move on, and then go back to inflicting your game on them.
You were saying, Shane, that that you played with Farrell, didn't you, at Saracens? What was he like as a character back then? Like, did you ever think he'd go into management or anything like that?
No doubt.
Really?
Yeah. Everything was just absolute with him. You know, if he was doing this, it was 1,000% he was doing this. You know, his biggest problem, like, he couldn't settle. He had a couple of bad injuries, real freaky injuries that really never let him settle, but they didn't know where to play him. You know, he was big enough and physical enough to be in the back row, but that's, you know, he would have had a lot more to learn. So it took a while, and he ended up in the centre. Yeah, he ended up in the centre. But his dedication was just, you know, there was no in between. As I say, it was just, if this is the skill set he had to have and it was something he didn't have, he would do whatever it took to get it on board. And that's the mindset he's taken into his coaching, is that, like, there's no we'll just address this a little bit and then we'll move on. It's this little tiny thing, you do it till it's perfect, to absolute perfection.
Okay, yeah.
And then you move on.
But that's one side of I am fascinated, and I think we spoke about this last year as well, Pat. I'm fascinated about the extra for me with Andy Farrell is the personability. Like, he seems so personable. Like, he's playing every phase with them. They're always smiling, they're hugging. So what's Andy Farrell like as the person to play with?
But he's a messer. He's a good, like, he's a great sense of humour. He's good fun. You know what I mean? So, like, he would be part of it. But there's an aura around the man as well, is that, like, when he's serious, the room is serious. You know, and that's just the way it is that, you know, when he's up there talking, everyone's listening. Like, he's an imposing enough character. So, like, he's not up there being a shrinking violet and maybe an ifs. He's there telling it, and you know that if he had the opportunity, he'd bloody do it as well. Yeah. So, you know, and that's part of it, is that it's the aura of the man, is that he's kind of going, right, I want to bring us on this way, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but, you know, I'll do what it needs, and everybody's bought into it. And with the leaders that we have, the Sextons, the Ryans, you know, the O'Mahanys, that, you know, they're leading the charge right behind them, and that's what this team needs. It's just to believe, because winning and losing for any game in Ireland now is up to them, as I said earlier on. That is a fact, because we can beat anybody, whatever's put in front of us. Yeah.
So that would probably be nice to put the pressure back on Pat. If you're New Zealand and you're Joe Schmidt and you're thinking, where's the little chink in this Irish armour? What's their game plan? Like, how are New Zealand going to beat us? Because I don't really right now see a weakness. I think we can play any style. We can play a kicking game. We can keep the ball. We can go through our phases. We can play without the ball. So what are New Zealand going to bring to us?
Yeah, it's going to be without I'd be more wary of kind of sounding overly confident than I would have playing Scotland. Like, but yeah, like, where do they go after them? Again, like, they had good moments against France as well. Like, but it'll be lots of kicking again, lots of kind of almost what's Ireland would do as well. If they don't feel it's going their way, they'll refocus as well, and they'll kind of get their shape back again. But, like, it's often, like, you could see against France, they're looking to these players that used to do it nearly every second game for them, but now they're looking to, like, Will Jordan to get you something out of nowhere. Like, in the past, like, I remember, like, in 2019, Aaron Smith killed us, like, because he kept...
He had a great game now against Italy. Yeah. Not great opposition, but he was electric, I thought, that night. Yeah.
So it's like, will he have plays in the game? But then, like, you'd think Ireland are surely dialed in to kind of keep an eye about this guy, like, sniping away. And Like I could see Ireland not making any changes maybe from that starting 15 again. Like so they'll know who they're coming up against. Like but. Yeah, they'll probably try and go after them. At least try and disrupt the set piece as much as they can there, and give them a good rattle. And maybe they could shade the scrum, maybe like whereas Ireland kind of they were given a couple of tough times against South Africa, so they might try and go after them there. But it's almost useless putting it up in the air. Like it'll just be trying to keep structure, trying to keep it tight, and then waiting for your likes of like your Barrett, Geordie Barrett or Smith. Or Will Jordan just to kind of break it out something out of nowhere as well, and then they might try a couple of crossfield kicks as well, like
Richie Morongo.
But it's interesting to kind of see like there is no real Irish weakness that I can see at the moment, unless Schmidt has something that kept up his sleeve.
The ironic thing with New Zealand, and which this has been a fact for a long, long time, and it was only found out recently enough, is that we all take the mickey out of the South Africans a bit that their plan A is the same as the plan B. They just do it harder. But New Zealand don't normally have a plan B because plan A always worked. Yeah. That they put pressure on you, and then the half break happens, and then the whole team pours through that half break, and then they just go after it, and you're in so much trouble that you can't rearrange your defence quick enough because they're just brutally efficient. But if they're not getting those half breaks, if they're not getting through, and like from what we've seen, it didn't happen against France. The exact same thing is that they just couldn't create these breaks, these go forwards that normally happens for them, and they did like that was it. Like there was nothing more that they could do. Now they're fantastic players. They still are. Yeah. They don't have the superstars that they used to have. Well, look, they maybe have one or two, but it's. If you just stop them being able to play their game plan, they really do struggle. Like it's going to be an absolute cracking game, but Ireland could get this game very right. They really could. Yeah. They could strangle them off because we're so comfortable not having the ball.
Yeah.
So I can't remember who the analysis was by, but after the French game, so the opening World Cup game, New Zealand won the championship prior going into the World Cup basically on blitzing teams on the first 20 minutes, and then they were able to just relax and offload and do all the rest and play their game. They tried to do that against France. They started off very well, tried to blitz them, and I was wondering why Ramos was kicking. He was kicking to territory. There was a chance just for half time he could have went to the corner, they could have mauled them over. And it was really interesting to see the angle that basically France weathered the New Zealand storm for the first half, and then when it came to the 60th minute, New Zealand were so out of ideas and probably out of energy at this stage. Then we started to see the jouet from the French, and they started offloading, and then they could play and they finished them off. So I think probably my thoughts on the game is New Zealand will try to come out and blitz us, be really physical, try to wear us down, maybe try to have a little few goes and play that kind of mind game with us. But I think the same thing, I don't see it being an issue for us. I think we're very, very happy without the ball. I think we'll go through our phases, and I think eventually then come same thing as the French in the 60 minute when we have a very much stronger bench, in my opinion, once we have all players available, and we'll move on to that now in a few minutes. But yeah, I just don't. I'm confident, but I'm still wary of them. I know kind of we're slightly shading the stats as we're going, as if you're a betting person. But yeah, I just don't see us not being able to withstand anything that they throw at us.
I think, like, obviously the Joe Schmidt factor is there, but the game has moved on. Our game has moved on quite a bit from Joe's. He was amazing what he did with the team. But like, to be honest with you, I don't think Joe's familiarity with so many of our players is going to assist him, because what Joe knows of those guys is that they're really good players. They don't really have. It's not really a chink in their armour.
Nope.
Do you know what I mean? That's Joe knows that, and like he knows that those guys that we've talked about already, that you could list them off. That he knows that, look, if you make an error against these guys, they're really going to punish you.
Yeah.
So like, I think they're going to try to come up with specific things that are going to attack set pieces or set plays or things like that. I don't think his knowledge of the team is going to help him in that. It's just going to be, in general, trying to find a weakness somewhere.
No, big time. And I noticed Ireland kept giving the inside ball the last couple of games, even against the Springboks. So they were kind of attacking that pillar option. And I was thinking to myself, right, well, if anyone's looking at analysis of this now, they're going to say, oh, Ireland are going to go for that inside ball. But all that's going to do now is cover that, and they're going to open the tip or a soft shoulder for whoever's direct carrying the ball. So I think their adaptability in how they're actually playing the game and thinking about what's in front of them, they just seem very confident, as what Mike Catt and Andy Farrell have instilled in them attack-wise anyway, to just be comfortable in making those decisions.
Yeah.
But do you think the bench are going to play a big part in this? We seem stronger. I mean, there was no drop in performance at the weekend.
No, so
Yeah.
superb.
Yeah.
like Keller, like Beelum was great again when he came
was
on.
fantastic.
He's actually playing really well.
Yeah, isn't he great? Like
Really well.
like I'd say in a lot of other sides, he kind of. It's funny. I was trying to. You're almost doing your opposition research. I was listening to some Kiwi podcasts this morning, and they were talking about Furlong, and they were saying that he's dropped off a little bit. They could still consider him really good, but maybe he's not world's best anymore. But Beelum could probably get into most other sides in the world. That's the way the All Blacks used to be. It almost you could pick any of their players in the team, but. Yeah, a lot of them, even some of their starting players, like Papali'i and stuff like that, and Lalala, like they might not. Yeah, like Ireland would be stronger there as well. So then you go onto the bench and you're kind of you're dipping in a little bit more, and they looked okay against some of the lesser lights in the World Cup. But it's not like in the past where somebody would come on who's like a Crusaders hard nut, and you'd be like, oh, here we go. It's it's kind of they're lads that you'd have to be a big Super Rugby fan or Championship fan to kind of know who some of them are, and they're still they're this innate talent that they all have. Where I'm still fearful that one of them could just rip us up, and you'll be like, oh, here we go. But yeah, not that big fear that you would have had back in the day, where they've ready-made starters, and there's you could probably pick their team now today, and you could probably pick Ireland's side as well, but you can you just know, but on their bench that there's no one pushing to come on, there's no kind of live threats that this guy has to start instead of this guy. There's gonna be no big debates back in New Zealand as well. So Ireland definitely seem to have the edge there. And Conor Murray is someone who's he's really seems to grow into this role of just come on and finish games off and play that 20-25 minutes and. Very smart around kind of even winning his side penalties a couple of times in a couple of games.
I think that very much so, and he's you can see him influencing the ref as well. Look. But I think that's superb. As well, he's slipped into that role because Gibson Park is the number one. Yeah, there's no doubt, and he slipped very well into that role. Look, the bench. I suppose the issues we'd love Henshaw to be there. That's because when he comes off the bench, he's dynamite. And there's no debate at the moment. Bundyaki is the man. This World Cup, he's just hitting unbelievable form. We would love to have been Cian Healy there. And if something happens to Ryan, maybe he will come out. Kilcoyne is superb. Around the park. But the scrum, he's
more dynamic, isn't he?
Yeah, when you're up against. He's technically a brilliant scrummager, but when you're up against just pure bulk, sometimes you're just getting a bit of trouble. So you would be more comfortable if there was a Healy there, but it's not. And it hasn't upset us massively to this point. So, I think the bench, every time they've come on, they've done really well. It was good to see Conan back. There's a guy who I believe his best rugby has happened because now he's not the number one, number 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think because he knows every time he gets in the park, he has to be superb. He has to be. Doris is, no one's debating that. You know what I mean? Doris is absolutely world class. And any time you see Conan in a jersey now, he's playing absolutely out of his skin. He
had a huge impact, I thought, when he came on. And I think it's nice that players don't, their thought process or what motivates you, whether you're international or you're just playing AIL or you're just playing mini leagues, it doesn't change. If you have that intrinsic motivation, you want to be the best. And I think you're right. I think it's nice to see that there's so much competition. And listen, Doris is one of a kind. He's been in the 6 jersey, the 7 jersey, the 8 jersey. And you're like, right, where are you going to next, sweetheart? You know what I mean? He's just absolutely fantastic. But injury wise, it was always going to be the case for Ireland, wasn't it, that we needed to come through unscathed, and we're starting to see a little bit. James Ryan, What do you think? He looked in bother now at the end of that game with that
Yeah,
wrist.
and he was like, I don't think he trained that much at all the week before the game as well. Like so, and that's why he
was on the bench.
Yeah. And so, and they're talking about him going to see a specialist and them being more hopeful. Like maybe his World Cup's not over, but I don't know. I think I don't think he'll start anyway. I think Henderson will keep his spot.
He did well.
He did
well when he came on.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah. And
it's going to be interesting to see because it's a wrist again.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And does he
and
have?
It's the other
is
wrist.
there a flaw? It's the other wrist. Yeah. Does he have is there a flaw there? I don't know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, that it can just be a weakness in him.
I kind of like when I saw him initially down at the weekend. I was like hoping to God it wasn't concussion because he's had a fair share of them in the past as well. Like, but took a bit of treatment and. Like it kind of changes things up a little bit. And then the other thing is like they have both wingers, like a calf for Hansen. Apparently like he got an accidental finger to the eye.
Sore.
Ty Byrne it was.
Was it? Yeah,
it was.
That tackle when
Clear
he
out.
fell.
He's trying to poach.
Ty Byrne.
That's a real kick in the chops, isn't
friendly
it?
Fire. Friendly fire.
Ty Byrne of all the people to poach as well. And then you have like Henshaw and Earls who both kind of apparently like they did some running yesterday.
Hamstrings,
Easterby was kind of saying that if they have to play, we'll play him. But then can you play like 3 or 4 lads in the back line that all at a push have to play?
Crooked.
Yeah. So do you? I was just starting to think in my own head, like, do you then put like a Jimmy O'Brien on the bench who can cover all the back line rather than a McCloskey who did at the weekend? Like so.
Well, I was thinking the same because obviously we spoke highly of Jimmy when he came on unexpectedly in the South African game last year.
He did brilliant.
He played centre, then he can play fullback. He's a left boot on him if James Lowe, God forbid, but he looks to be out of all them probably the one who will be back. So if you start Henderson and Ryan's ruled out, then who are you putting on the bench? Because you've Joe McCarthy who's an absolute man mountain, and then you've Ryan Baird who's extremely dynamic. And I think if we're going to probably move the All Blacks and get space, we want probably a really quick ball, a dynamic runner. So I'm probably going for him, on the bench.
Definitely.
Baird, I think I'd go Baird as well. Yeah,
You?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Joe's great. There's nothing. This isn't about him.
No.
I just think Ryan Brigg. He's an absolute athlete.
Yeah.
And he can. When you want the game raised up, which Ireland at no point will want to be just closing the game down. That's just not what we do. And I think he's superb off the bench. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like one thing, if you notice that Farrell likes picking a replacement centre.
Yes, he does.
It's all around his defence mindset as well. Is that he doesn't want someone who can play centre. He wants a centre on the bench normally. So he normally picks a centre and then whatever else he can do around that. And so it'll be interesting to see what he does. If, let's just say, the worst happened and we do have wingers issues and the guys who are meant to be assisted are also injured, it'll be really interesting to see. Because potentially there's 4 guys.
A 4-4 bench split.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We haven't heard much about it.
Imagine Razzie's face and be like, what are they doing here? What are they playing? What games are they? Right, so you're saying McCluskey has to start on the bench then?
Well, no, but that's with previous, that's what it is. But the problem is it could force his hand that if he has, if the potential weakness in the back line is wingers, he might then change it just a little bit. Or he might put whoever the utility. Like it's a hard one to pick because it's always been something that he obviously from a defensive point of view he likes picking a centre.
Yeah.
Because that's if they get up, that's the rock solid area, and then everything else hopefully would be able to take care of itself.
Well, obviously they're pivotal positions, and obviously Mac would be a huge loss. But then you're kind of looking at Keith Earls, who's a bit like Pia Manny, whatever they're feeding them down in Munster. They're getting this rejuvenation liquid into them, and you're kind of like, right, but he's an issue then as well. So you're kind of looking at now, could the wheels come off in certain positions? But then, as I said, we'd like the centre and the 9 playing in the wingers. So this team seem adaptable even more.
I saw Earls was up now for press today, so sometimes that's a good sign that maybe he's a bit confident. Yeah. So that could be a little glimmer of hope that like he could be the bench cover then or something like that. So
well, that's the other side of depth, isn't it? That you can actually manage injuries a little bit more. Yeah. In years gone by, we would have been like shoving, putting cotton wool around Robbie Henshaw out you go. You got to pat in the bum.
I don't think the wheels come off. I think no matter what happens, like even if you had to put like injuries properly happened and you had to put Jimmy in, he's not going to let you down.
No, he's not going to be a drop.
He's not going to let you down. Like, yes, it's not. Look, you have your starters, you have the guys who would be backing them up, but if it doesn't happen, Jimmy is as good as a lot of people around there, and he just won't let you down. It would still take New Zealand to do something fantastic to break him down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he'll have all the energy that's needed, and he will follow the defensive structure. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Big time. Like Stuart McCluskey only had a new baby as well. You're kind of like, what is wrong with it? Like the culture in this? He's like, yeah, listen, I was biding me time, just had the new baby. He's about 6 days old. And I'm like, you have a lot on your plate there, and you still managed to come on and just perform.
There was great pictures, wasn't it? Yeah, just little Casper, I think is the boy's name, and like so.
Casper is
I thought he was holding a towel. I won't lie. I was like, is that a towel in his hand? I was like, oh my god, it's a baby.
Carrying it one-handed, like getting ready for the offload, like. But to fly back home and that's because I think, again, Mick Hardy, the team manager, was up today and he was talking about that, how, like, you know, it's often said and stuff, but, like, families really do seem to be a big part of this. And like, yeah, McCluskey, there was no bother that he was able to fly home and fly back and, you know, and be there for it. And so they are kind of, like, easing that pressure valve every now and then as well. And they're getting families in, like O'Mahony had like the parents and his wife and stuff like that in for, and his kids for his
mum
presentation.
presented the jersey. I believe, which
and she had a great sign up, and did you see that at the weekend?
About the lawn, everyone's calm now. Okay, his garden is fine.
Yeah,
but that's part of, you know, I think the pattern. Okay, we were in the group of death. World Rugby messed up with the seeding. It's absolutely ridiculous. Probably worse for the Scots. They should never have been in that scenario. But I think the fixtures have suited us down to the ground. The build-up of intensity, hitting that physical max against South Africa. Then the week off, and Farrell just said, look, I'll go off, I'll see you. Bar rehab, I'll see you Thursday.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what he did. And they all just had family time and everything. You saw the lads going around the bicycle around the place. You know, but that's a team that's calm. Do you know what I mean? There's no stress. The two boys on the bike, like, that's a sign, lads, just
around the streets
nice
of Limerick,
chilling out. You know, Earl's on the phone on the back.
You know the story, the backstory behind it. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to mention this little elephant in the corner of the room, right? And Ireland have never, right? And it's a nice. You've brought us onto a nice point. We'll end this part of the conversation on it, because, as I said, I've been there as a player. You've been there, Pat. I've no doubt you've been there in some part of your life. So we haven't got past this stage. You know, we've come 4 from 4. We're looking good. But how much of the hoodoo and the heebie-jeebies will be there, Shane? Because, like, people won't even mention win. Like, the ads are, you know, there's a pathetic fallacy to the ads that are going around. Don't mention it.
Yeah.
Is it a factor? You've been there. You're on the wrong end of the 43-21 back 2003 with France.
Yeah.
They're a big pair, and this is a big match. But how much are they going to play to us? Is that in the back of our minds, or is it gone?
It's in our minds. It's not in theirs.
Okay.
I genuinely don't think it's in theirs.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that Farrell has addressed with them. And I think he has addressed it. And the mindset to see you through something like a quarterfinal is already there. I genuinely think, going back to what I said about Shane Byrne, it's knockout rugby from now on. So they're just looking at that game in just those 80 minutes. It's not the whole, what it means, what it represents. It's that game. And I just think we have to do this to win this game. What happens next? We'll deal with that next week.
Yeah, we're not looking beyond it.
We're not looking beyond it. And I genuinely think they're going to address this quarterfinal the exact same way that we're playing New Zealand. Okay, so how do we beat New Zealand? Right, well, you beat them from doing this, this, and this, and this. All right, it's a quarterfinal World Cup. Yeah.
Same thing, it's just a game.
Just a game.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Process doesn't change. I think as players, I would have been guilty of that. Do you know?
You could kind of even, maybe the success that they've had in the last year leading into the World Cup has kind of eased that pressure on them a little bit. Because I remember 2019 and it was a cloud that kind of hung over them, and sometimes you feel bad saying it to the players, like you mentioned the quarterfinals and they'd be like, oh, don't worry, it'll be grand, and like, why are you guys getting so worried? And then we get knocked out in the quarters and you're like, this is why we were worried. But they don't seem to have that this time around. Like, and it was that documentary that they had when they played the All Blacks, when they spoke about that. It was all of the kind of mountain climbing analogies and climbing Everest, and we're going to be the first guys to do it. And what they've done is they've flipped that pressure into, this is your chance to create history now. Like, you guys are going to be the first guys to get into a semi or a final or even more. Like, and this is your opportunity, and isn't that exciting? And they've got them to buy into it. Like, you know, if I was in that room, I'd probably be like, well, like, you know, like, and maybe that's why I never made it at elite level. Like, I'd be the negative voice in the room. They just asked me to leave. Like, do you ever see those kind of movies where someone goes, if anyone doesn't want to do this, you can leave now. Like, I'd just be like, all right, I'll see you later. Like,
that's army crawling out of the room.
But you know something,
it is it was a real thing.
Yeah.
It genuinely was. Like, the aura around. Like, I was on the bench in '95 as well in South Africa.
You played the All Blacks in that as well, did you? Or
no, it was Wales.
Oh, in '95.
Yeah.
Wales, God, my memory. It's that long ago.
Oh, you played the All Blacks in the group stages. Yeah.
And it's a real thing.
Yeah.
The quarterfinal hoodoo is a real thing. In 2003, we had that amazing Melbourne experience playing Australia when the Aussie rules was on, the combined rules and the Melbourne Cup at the same time.
God.
Sure, it was like you're walking down the street and you're
Whole
meeting
Ireland.
people from home, like, hey, what are you doing here? And so anyway, but and then it was quarterfinal time. We were still in Melbourne, and it was genuinely a thing. And since then, it has been a thing.
Yeah.
And I really don't. I think we all will suffer terribly before this game.
Everyone have nervy belly.
Yeah.
But I genuinely do you think Caleb Doris is even thinking about that? Do you think Keenan's thinking about that? No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I liked even Doris. You see him smiling and laughing in the anthem. I don't know whether it's that was a nerves thing, but he looked so chilled when they're doing Ireland's call.
Yeah.
And
Well, thank you, because this was the one thing I was like, oh my God, they're nearly like they're fans of their own journey. Does that make sense? Like they're actually in awe of the crowd. They're watching out for their families. They're embracing it all. They're hanging around and they're just soaking it up. And it's just, I would just feel as a player myself, it's just a lovely place to be. And there's a calmness, and they're just, imagine enjoying every second of it. Like, I don't know, I've been there. We happened with basketball, the hoodoo. We couldn't get over the semi-final of the cup. But I knew as soon as we won one semi-final, we went on to win back-to-back cups. So to get over the hoodoo, I think if we can get by this weekend, if we can get by Saturday, wake up Sunday, we're in a semi-final, I can see us going all the way, because that's off our back. And I think, look, there's loads. The players they haven't lost the All Blacks. No one's up on a pedestal before them. And they have no fear. No more than James Ryan, who went how many matches without even losing a game. Like, it was ridiculous.
But put it this way as well. It's already been the case previous to this. But now, what we've done to South Africa, and as well to Scotland, who are ranked 5th in the world, nobody wants to play Ireland.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to play Ireland, including New Zealand. They'll talk a lot of twaddle, but about revenge and we're going to correct things and stuff. They do not want to be playing Ireland. Yeah. Absolutely don't want to.
No, Gregor Townsend alluded to that. Like, he was happy enough that Scotland are so highly ranked, but he said he can see Ireland dominating for 10 years. And I can see that as well. But we will move on, because we've really floated our own boat for long
We're getting
enough.
Paul excited here in the sound booth here.
Yeah, I can see him. Like, he's losing the run of himself there. But let's talk about France. We'll start off then. They absolutely battered Italy.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, caught some of it. Yeah. And again, just you'd knock it on and just kind of, it's almost like you'd enjoy it for 20 minutes and kind of like, they're looking good, aren't they? Like, and they'll have kind of walked off kind of feeling happy enough after that performance. And then the news even today that Dupont is cleared to play as well. Like, so they'll be starting to get excited again now. And I'm sure, I don't know, it's interesting. Like, for them, it's tough as well. Like, to play South Africa in a quarterfinal, they'll be like cursing that as well. Like,
yeah,
but
it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I can see them coming through though, because actually, I was thinking of the weekend, because Gregory Aldrit had a great game. And he kind of had a Peter O'Mahony moment where he was like,
he's incredible.
Yeah,
isn't he?
He is an absolutely incredible player.
Yeah,
he's one of the best in the world, bar no one.
Yeah,
bar our own guy. Really, his engine is superb. His reading of the game is just excellent. And when he's paired up there with Dupont as well, that access there to whoever's a 10, they're just absolutely superb.
Chalobert did well. He played 10. He had a nice crossfield kick. Jeez, it was fantastic. And listen, we could name, like, Ramos was on forward. Like, I think they're definitely a team that are oozing confidence. And I think Sean Edwards as well, you could see him with his defensive set. You could see him at half time kind of like, get off the line and smash people. We'll give Italy a brief word. Where did they go here, Pat? Because they're absolutely probably the worst team in the competition. Yeah,
and it's such a shame, because like the underage sides now starting to seem to click as well. They seem to have good moments. Even like, shouldn't they beat Wales not so long ago in the Six Nations, and
their first win of that championship, which was huge.
Yeah, like Caputo and stuff like that. Like, when you things like, and there's other lads coming through, and it looks like finally they're happening. And now all of a sudden Portugal are the side that could replace them in the Six Nations as well. Like, so it's just been a complete disaster for them. And there seems to be, I don't know, something like it. They were always on a hiding to nothing, being in a pool with France and New Zealand. Like, so do you go in with even high hopes at all, or do you go in just kind of like, let's hang on and see what we can do here? But yeah, there seems to be something going on in the camp where
they
didn't even play, did they?
And the coach going out, and you know what I mean. Like, it's not good. It really wasn't good. Like, they were the biggest disappointment. Like, you can speak about all the minnows. But Italy are meant to be a tier 1 side. Yeah. And to lose to New Zealand by 97 points, like, for goodness sake, that was terrible. And, you know, what needs to be done, World Rugby, is they need to stop faffing about, bring South Africa into the Six Nations, create a proper tier 2 Six Nations, tell the English to stop messing with the fixtures calendar and let us change it a bit, and just have the 7 nations, and whoever's bottom plays the top in a one-off game, and whoever wins or loses is in the Six Nations.
So almost promotion relegation to the playoff,
and that's it, and move on. And that's the structure in place from now on. And then New Zealand and Australia and Argentina need to embrace the islands, and Japan, and create another league down there, and just that's it, you know, and just let's move on. So that everybody's getting an equal opportunity, playing high-class games all the time, and, you know, that rugby can grow.
Yeah, because Japan probably are the one team that really have been a disappointment, considering their endeavour at their own previous home World Cup. They were beaten by Argentina. Argentina started off slow. I was raging with them losing to England.
England was
Yeah,
but now Japan played that game yesterday was reasonably good. They played well. They scored some superb tries. But I think it might have just woken up Argentina a bit. But yeah, Japan, like, they're just one of these teams, like the Islanders, well, they just need more. They just need more high quality games. And you know, there's no reason that they can't get them with slight little changes and adjustments to what the world leagues are made up of at the moment.
Did you remember, like, even with Argentina, they had the Jaguares in the Super Rugby, and they got to a final, played the Crusaders.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden COVID happened and they got booted out, and it's just the Aussies and the Kiwis again. And it's like, it's like you can just goes to show you it doesn't take, and you can see how well, like, even like Fiji have looked, because they've had that time together as well. Like, it doesn't take that much to get these guys. I looked at, like, I know they lost that game to Wales, but I looked at that Fiji game against Wales. I was like, oh my, it's that same thing. If these guys ever get their act together, or allowed to get their act together, they'd be, you know, top 5 in the world. Like,
they didn't have their act together now against Portugal, and I will hold up my hand. I did shed a tear. Like, I was absolutely welling up. It was the romance of sport, and I was just all caught up in it last night. I was roaring at the telly, and I thought they were well worth their win.
It was magnificent.
It was fabulous, wasn't it?
Absolutely brilliant, and you couldn't fault it. Yeah, I don't know, Fiji just weren't at the right place. Like, their form, unfortunately, seems to be dipping down a little bit, which is a pity. Considering who they're playing in the quarterfinals, because we know who will be cheering for that one. but the it just like, Portugal just took it to them, and they're just like you know, sniping away, and they just wouldn't stop. You know, and they just kept at it. It was absolutely brilliant to see.
They were so brave. See the snipe for their last
right
try.
At the end.
I swear to God, I was like, yes, keep going. The Grover kick at the back. They were just fantastic. But right, we're going to go quick for. We won't talk about England Samoa. I thought Samoa were unlucky, and I think it just, for me, highlighted that the tier 2, tier 3 really weren't getting. They haven't been getting the rub of the green from the referees. We love the refs, but
no, it's. We were talking before we started recording here, and the refs use every single page in the rule book when they're playing a tier 2, tier 3 side, and they don't against the tier 1, which I think is terrible. And you just see them blowing the whistle, and they're right. Look, according to the rule book, that is a penalty. It was like, for flip's sake. You know what I mean? Like,
let it play.
Fiji Wales was probably the biggest example of that.
Like four last warnings, kind of stuff.
Right, we'll end on. We're just going to give me the answer to the team you think you're going to win the quarter final. Argentina, Wales. Here's your money on
Argentina.
England, Fiji.
I think they've woke up a little bit.
Hopefully.
England, Fiji. Oh, come on, Fiji.
Ireland, New Zealand.
Based on absolutely no logic whatsoever.
Just pure passion.
They won before the World Cup, so hopefully that continues. Say again.
Ireland, New Zealand.
Oh, look, I genuinely think Ireland are going to get through.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And finally, South Africa, France.
Now that's a game.
That is a game. That'll be Sunday.
That's
a hard one.
South Africa have enough to beat France, but the momentum and the aura that's around France and the crowd at the moment, you'd have to pip them. And with Dupont coming back, you just have to say France, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But wow, that is such a hard game to call.
I know, that's Sunday. We're going to be exhausted by next Monday. Patrick, who's your money on Wales? Wales and Argentina?
Wales for that one.
Fiji, England?
England.
South Africa, France?
France.
And Ireland, New Zealand?
Ireland.
Well, I was the same answers because obviously history-wise we're going with Fiji, Wales. I'm going to go with France because I think home nation, there's something different about them. Sean Edwards has given a bit of edge and just a variety in their coaching staff. And obviously I'm wearing my green shirt. I'm going for Ireland. So I think we'll end on that, lads.
I kind of just keep thinking, as the week goes on, like I'm so confident now.
I can see you having nervy belly.
In a ball.
You won't be able to eat. You're like, please.
There'll be knots in the stomach going into this game. Like I remember that how uncomfortable the South African game was to watch. Like that was
I was in South Africa. And I was getting thick with one of the New Zealand girls, Grace. Hi, Grace. She was like, I'm up for South Africa. And I was like, what? And she was having the crack, but I was like, Grace, wrong time. I'm so competitive. I was like, you're dead. Yeah. So we recruited the Welchies. They were up for Ireland on the premise that we would be up for them against Australia the next day. So we'd good crack with them. But
remember how that was just edge of seat the whole way. And I think this game is going to be the same, particularly for us leading into it. I think all the hoodoos, the press is going to be gassed during the week.
Listen,
but the players won't be listening to any of that. They will go out and do the job.
Except for Pete, he might be there with a magnifying glass and an earpiece.
Trying to find a negative word or two.
I'm ready to fight with whoever's pillowcase I can. Listen, the very best luck to the lads, to Andy Farrell and his team. That is the end of this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. A huge thanks to Mr. Shane Byrne and to Pat McCarry. A huge thank you to Heineken for our sponsors of the show. I'm Lindsay Peat, and enjoy your week. Thanks very much.
Sports Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Heineken. Get the facts, be drink aware, visit drinkaware.ie.